Has anyone ever tried to talk to you in a public bathroom? Once a young girl went into a public bathroom and heard from the stall next to hers, "Shall we put on the red vest?" She got scared, ran off, and called the police. 2 officers arrived. One went in and heard the same voice asking, "Shall we put on the red vest?" The officer outside heard her reply, "Okay, put it on." Suddenly, a loud scream, then a thump. The second officer opened the door to check on his partner, then found her head rolling on the ground and blood all the way down her back, making it look like she was wearing a red vest. In Japanese urban legend, the Akamanto is a ghost who haunts bathrooms, specifically female bathrooms. He wears a red cape and hides his face with a white mask. If he chooses you, he will ask you if you want to wear a red vest or a blue vest. If you say red, he will chop your head off. If you say blue, he will grab you by the neck until your face turns blue and you suffocate. If you try to ask for a third color, the floor will open up and a pair of pale hands will reach up and drag you to hell. This is why you should never abandon your old toys. Once there was an old toy store, and on the top shelf in the back of this toy store was a doll. Every day this doll watched as people came into the store, but no one ever paid any attention to it, until one day its dreams came true. One girl named Lena came into the store and bought the doll, but things quickly took a terrifying turn. Although Lena liked the doll in the beginning, she quickly grew sick of it. Days and months passed and she ended up abandoning the doll like a piece of trash, until eventually Lena got into a fight with her mother when she said, "I never wanted the stupid doll anyways." But of course, she could have never known the terrifying consequences this would lead to. One night, as Lena slept in her bed, she heard a creaking noise. Then the noise moved closer and closer, until Lena's mother heard a scream coming from her bedroom. When she came in, she saw Lena on the ground, but it was how she looked that terrified her mother the most. Lena's arms and legs were bent in strange positions, like a disjointed doll. Her mouth was sewn shut, but she looked desperately up at her mother, then to her desk. And on her desk was a note that said, "Now you know what it's like to be a doll." Can you solve this mystery? This is the story about the murder of a group of kids that went to the same school, but things are not as simple as they seem. Someone is hiding something, and all the clues to what really happened are hidden in what I'm about to say. After the tragic murders of these boys, they had to each be buried in closed caskets because their bodies were so badly beaten. But someone noticed something strange at the funeral. He was a friend of one of the boys' parents, and he saw an elderly woman sitting alone, someone that he didn't recognize. When the funeral was over, she quietly went over to each headstone with a smile and placed a clover next to each one. Then she said a silent prayer. He thought she must be one of the dead boys' grandmas. He asked her, "Why did you place a clover on their graves?" She replied, "It's a happy flower. It brings good luck. You see, my grandson died too, but it was a different incident. He was bullied for a long time, and one day he couldn't take it anymore. He hung himself in the school bathroom." The elderly woman began crying and left. He felt bad for her, but something felt off. That night, he decided to Google what clovers mean. It said that they were the symbol for revenge. What really happened here? Can you solve this mystery?
This girl literally lived a nightmare. A 17-year-old girl was watching TV late at night when her motion detector lights in her driveway suddenly went on. She assumed it was just an animal, so she got up, drew the blinds, and went back to watching TV. Then a little bit later, it happened again. Before she could even react, she looks over and clearly makes out a silhouette of a person right behind the blinds who starts banging aggressively on the window. The girl stands up and goes, "I'm gonna call the cops!" And the figure stops for just a second, sprints to the side door and starts pounding even louder on that, screaming incoherently. The girl runs to the bathroom, barricades herself inside while she waits for the police, and then her worst nightmares come true. She hears glass shatter in the other room. After a few minutes of silence, she opens her door just a crack to get a peek outside, and standing in her living room next to a broken window is some crazy old woman who looks over at her and starts sprinting toward her. The lady comes smashing into the door and starts wailing on it until the police arrive and take her away. She was a lunatic who had escaped her facility.
This is why you should never answer the door late at night. A woman woke up to a knock at her door. When she opened the door, no one was there, so she went back to bed. A few hours later, she woke up again to a loud noise. She looked to her window and saw the word "smile" written in the frost. She reached over to call 911, but saw that a post-it note was stuck on her phone and it said, "I told you to smile." She ran out of the house, called the police, but nothing was found. The next night, she decided to put a camera in her room. But she could have never predicted what those cameras would show her. At 3 a.m., something crawled out from underneath her bed. It was a tall, pale man with no clothes and bulging veins all over his head. He walked over to the camera until his face took up the entire shot. Then his mouth widened into an unnaturally large smile. He just stared at the camera like that for hours, not blinking. The woman skipped the video until she saw herself getting out of bed and picking up the camera. And that was the last thing the cameras recorded, which meant the man never left her house. This is why you should never watch TV late at night. Once a mother and a father decided they needed a break, so they planned a night out together, and they left their 2 children with their babysitter at home. Everything was going good, the children were well behaved, and the babysitter was just sitting around while watching the kids, but eventually she decided that she wanted to watch some TV. It turns out she couldn't watch it downstairs because they didn't have cable downstairs, so she called the parents and asked if she could watch TV with the kids in their room upstairs. The parents agreed. They were about to hang up the phone when the babysitter had one final request. As she entered the parents' bedroom, she asked if she could cover up their large clown statue with a cloth or a blanket. She said it was making her very uncomfortable. The phone line went dead for a second. Then the mother said over the phone, "Take the children and get out of the house. We don't have a clown statue." As the babysitter turned around, she saw the corners of the clown's mouth widen into a smile. Do you know someone who idolizes a famous person a little bit too much? For Sophie, her obsession with her favorite celebrity led to something truly terrifying. Sophie loved everything about her favorite celebrity, who for now we'll just call Mindy. She especially loved Mindy's looks. She would buy the same clothes, get the same hairstyle, and buy the same jewelry. She did everything to look exactly like her. So one day, Sophie saw from Mindy's Instagram that she was about to go to this restaurant. So Sophie showed up at that restaurant first and waited until Mindy came. She'd wanted to get plastic surgery for a while, and she thought, what better than to get a real-life reference photo for my doctor? Soon, Mindy came in, sat down, and ordered. Sophie tried to compose herself, but when Sophie saw that Mindy got up to go to the bathroom, she followed. Then she pretended to be someone that Mindy met at an event and probably forgot about, so she wouldn't seem like just another fan. Then she leaned in and asked to take a photo together. The next day, she walked into her doctor's office with the reference in hand and said, "Here's exactly what I want to look like," and demanded the face be sewn into her. What would you do if someone said this to you? Once there was a girl in Korea who got in an elevator in the apartment building that she was living in when a stranger came in and told her something that was absolutely terrifying. This stranger came into the elevator with her and tried to make some small talk. He looked at the elevator buttons and said, "Oh, I see that you live on the 14th floor. I live on the 13th floor." She gave him a friendly response and even tried to flirt a little bit. She thought that he was attractive and wondered if they would get to know each other better. But things quickly took a horrifying turn. When the elevator arrived at the 13th floor, the man got off and said, "See you soon." But as the doors closed, he pulled out a knife from his jacket and with a terrifying smile said, "Upstairs." Then he ran towards the stairs. By this time, it was too late. The elevator doors were already closed. She tried to push as many buttons as possible, but it was of no use. She was stuck inside the elevator, unable to do anything, as the elevator made its way up to the 14th floor. This is why you should never give your phone number to a stranger. One girl did this and ended up suffering an unimaginable fate. So a stranger stopped her on the street and said, "Please give an origami crane so Kasumi's heart transplant can be a success." She was intrigued by this request and she wanted to do some good, so she made the origami crane and handed it back. But things were not so simple. The stranger asked her to write her name and phone number in a notebook, and because so many other names were already written down, she did it too. But then the stranger started calling her, demanding that she make more origami cranes. Then the calls went from every day to many times a day. Eventually, the caller said if she didn't make a certain number of cranes per day, she would be dooming an innocent girl to die. She couldn't take it anymore. One day, her parents came into her room and noticed that she had trouble standing up and functioning. Eventually, she was sent to a mental hospital with no access to a phone. She got better afterwards, but on the day she was meant to leave the hospital, another unexpected incident happened. As she was about to leave, a stranger bumped into her in the hallway and whispered something in her ear. She ended up having a breakdown on the floor that led to uncontrollable screaming until she was sedated. The stranger had whispered, "Kasumi's dead. Let's see who will make cranes for you now."